Hello everybody. We're back here on Gelvin Valley, 6:38 in the morning, ready to continue our harvest. So I think I'll head out to the field. We can hear our puppy, but we got work to do, of course. We've already taken a few rounds around this field. I'll just get things going again as we wind down the harvest and get ready to move on to something else in our field work. We're almost done. So I'll get him going, looking for the combine, and we'll get it going as well. And turn him loose. There goes our hillside. This hill is we've previously been on just in the last episode. It's incredibly steep. In real life, I don't know that this is one that would be harvested, but what do I know? Maybe in steeper regions of where this map is based on in real life, maybe they do harvest a field such as this. All I know is it was a grass field when started the map, and I had to plow it up to turn it into an arable field. It's incredibly steep. And this is supposed to be looking for, yeah, this is field 37. It's on a course play, and hopefully it will behave itself, right? Course play it just works flawlessly. I think that's what we've discovered. But I'm going to let him sit there and contemplate his navel. We still have a little bit of work up here to do in this field. So I'm going to crank it up, and we'll try to finish our windrowing and get this done up here. Kind of pulling a little bit of a hill in here. So this is going to be fun later as we bring in the baler to wrap up that part of it. So that's what is next on the agenda as soon as we get through our harvest. I've probably done so much of it on here, I can't imagine extending a series to another harvest season. But if I want to become a financial success, that's probably exactly what I have to do. Everybody can see my very negative bank account, and part of it is because I purchased another couple new fields, one of which was this one, and one of which, by the way, was a total pain in the backside. This one here, wasted an episode or two trying to keep my combine out of the fence. And oh, we see once again, course play is working flawlessly. Let's go see what's going on. Hugging the fence. Well, maybe he at least offloaded the combine. Don't know. Combine is sitting there. That's another interesting thing we observed. There are these spots in the field, don't know why, but where the harvester will pause for some reason. Kind of a little anomaly. I don't know why it stopped now. It isn't particularly full, but maybe it's because our tractor here's on the move. Maybe part of it is just having so many mods working all at the same time. Don't go to the fence. There you go. See, they listen to me sometimes. No, you don't need to climb that mountain. You just don't need to. Maybe full enough. What is he, 93%? Probably is full enough. He could just go empty. I almost think, what I'm going to tell him to drive now. Send him on his way. There the harvester goes. He's going to head across country. Alright, we'll go back to our windrowing here. I had started to mention that we spent a good part of the time just trying to keep our silly combine out of the fence, with the mod or whatever, how it works. It not being perfect, it sent the combine routinely just a little bit too far forward, and it'd end up in the fence, and we had some reset problems, but it did remind me of something that happened on the farm to me one time. We were opening up a new field, and this was grass seed harvest. This is on Lone Oak. And the field I'm thinking of at the moment where this incident happened, where the fence and the combine and me wasn't on the map, where the Lone Oak map, which many people have played and know kind of what it looks like. It was another property that my uncles owned, where they had a field, but it was kind of an L-shaped field, if you will, a big fat L, if you will. I believe it was about 80 acres in size, and I remember where I was. I don't know that it does any good to try to explain it, but in the crook of the L, if you will, it was someone else's property, where if they had owned the whole thing, it'd be a massive square shape, but they didn't. They only owned the L shape, but I was kind of in the crook of it that was next to the neighbor's property. I think a number of years ago they had cattle in there. It was probably this other parcel, the neighbors was maybe 20 acres-ish, something like that. And it was kind of just a little square in there. And anyway, they had this old fence along the edge where I was combining, kind of coming up the hill. And I wasn't really paying the best attention. I was focusing more on the windrow ahead of me and trying to make sure I got that in. It was on the outer edge of the field. And the combine I was in at the time was a 6602 John Deere hillside. And in those days, John Deere, I don't think just made a regular, well, maybe they did. They made a number of different headers, but they didn't make just a regular belt pickup header for nothing, of course. So my uncle's trying to improvise. They used the grain table of the combine. They took the reel off. They took the sickle out, and then they mounted on the front a belt pickup assembly. So really what you ended up going down the road was a full-on wheat header that happened to have a grass pickup belt on it. So in other words, it was fairly wide. So when I'm taking it around this field, around the outer edge, it was plenty wide. Well, on the edge of the wheat header, um, there was some metal, I forget, kind of a divider, if you will, to kind of separate one area of the wheat from another. If you were using it for a wheat header, that is, which we weren't. I'm just saying it was there. Well, that divider bit reached out and grabbed this fence. I say reached out and grabbed. It's my fault. I was the operator. I should have been paying more attention. But kind of like the combines in here with an affinity to the fence, it just reached out and grabbed it, and it grabbed just enough. It was one of those wire mesh fences, um, and it had the old school fence posts. I don't think it had any metal fence posts in there. And I was just combining along, going at a slow speed like those old machines did. I believe we probably went about 2 to 2.5 miles per hour. It's pretty slow for harvesting that grass seed. Well, the whole way through there for a period of a distance, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 50 and 100 feet, the edge of the header was tugging on this old fence, and I think the way I finally noticed it is it was popping these steeples. They use nail steeples to attach the wire mesh fence to the posts. Someone had pounded them in. Well, as I was dragging the fence along, it was popping these off the posts, and I think one of them maybe hit the cab and woke me up and alerted me that, hey, there was a problem over here. So but fortunately, I didn't end up with a big old tangled mess. I just backed up a little bit and and what are you going up here for? Kind of got out of that area, and I could continue on my way harvesting. I think I told my uncles about it later. I don't think we ever went and did anything about it. There were no animals in there. They weren't using it as a fence anymore. It just was one of those old country remnants. that had served its purpose in its time, and there it's at, and it just atrophied over time because, nobody was keeping it up. But needless to say, I was a little bit embarrassed, so I guess I can't heckle my workers in here too much if they decide to go find a fence. Shoot, that's kind of what I did. And I don't know why you are heading uphill when the harvestable crop is right over here. Maybe this is the case. You aren't looking up to see it, you're looking down. So I'll try to help him out here. I've noticed that before with auto combine, as the point kind of comes out here, it has a little trouble turning itself around, so we need to help it a little bit. I'm kind of curious to see if it'll pause here. Again, I don't know why it did. Oh, and there it's doing that again. I don't see the point. Back up and continue. Maybe it gets confused. And yeah, see, there it goes in. It's going to back up again. It's almost like it's kind of a jagged edge here now. And maybe what I can do, let me just back up a little bit. I wonder if I can help that a little bit by smoothing it off, maybe? I'll see if I can. Maybe that'll be a little smoother, so the next time we come through this area, maybe it'll work a little better. One can always hope. I think that looks a little straighter. Yeah, when you have a script applied to this combine to do the auto harvest, and it's measuring literally down to the pixels as to where it can harvest, there's probably things it sees in the computer realm that we just don't. Like there it did it again. It stopped and started, had a little hiccup. And next time I predict right in this little corner, it's going to do the exact same thing again. Probably all depends on how far ahead it looks as it attempts to harvest. And on that, is it Shift 4? No. Alt or Shift H? No. Not that. Maybe my help menu will tell me how to hire. Nope, it just has hire worker. Maybe is it Control 4? Shift 4? Nope, that isn't it. Shift 5. Aha, there it is. So I don't know if there is a distance that it looks out. I could check the script. There maybe is something that would say, hey, look out a little further ahead. I just don't know. Let me see. Get that off of there. Get him started again. Maybe it just can't be helped, and it's just something if you're going to have the auto combine mod in, you need to put up with it there. See, we'll back up a little bit. If it looks out a little further ahead, it seems like it could see past these divots in the edge and kind of keep up a clean harvest. Well, some of the time, maybe. But by hook or by crook, I know we'll get this field done. I've harvested already one other time with grain in it. Had to bale it up. So we'll get her done. It'll just take a little bit of time, like everything in here seems to take. I'm trying to remember what I think yesterday and some of the previous videos, some of the, so I just think about things to talk about with our kids having graduation, one at 8th grade, one a senior, reminiscing on my school experiences, some of the things I would share. one of the things that came to mind, I know we've talked about young people in here and seeing the potential and, just the hopes and dreams so many of them had. And, I got to say, they had one of those slideshows, for my son's eighth grade graduation, one of those that just pulls on your heartstrings. You look at your kid now, eighth grade, and you remember when you brought the little squirt home from the hospital, you remember when he was born, you remember it all, right? And just to see, they had the slideshow of all these kids, the peers to my son. Each one of them submitted a number of pictures, the first of which, would be like a baby picture. And just seeing the new life and the innocence that's there, and then watching the growth and seeing all the things that happened in their life as they grew up. Just one of those. Of course, they set it to music, and it just really pulls on the heartstrings. And so every parent in the room sees the potential. They know what hopes they have for their kids, and yet we all know there are still criminals running around in this world. Well, those were once somebody's baby, and someone had a hope and dream for them, and you wonder just what went wrong or what went sideways. And it made me remember something from when I went to high school, and there was a few tragedies that we had in the students in particular. For example, I think it was my freshman year, there was a senior girl who got in a car wreck and died. And what I remember, I hadn't heard that it happened. I just remember coming to school one day and it was quiet. Usually in school, the hallways would be full of noise and bustle and, just people talking with one another, having a good time, whatever. But when I came in, not only was it quiet, I saw people sitting in the hallways looking sad. There was people crying. It was a pretty popular girl, that had died. And, oh, what's my combine doing up there? Maybe he's... Oh, wow, this game. I tell you, I don't see what's so hard. Just turn the corner and continue on, Is that too much to ask? Maybe it is. And I see this, it kind of has... I'm going to just come forward and try to nip this off. Back up again here, make it a little bit straighter. I don't know if that helped or not. Maybe what I should be doing is taking over combining myself and making my hired help haul away the grain. That's maybe what I ought to do. But I tend to trust the grain hauler a whole lot less than I trust the combine operator. And I think with good reason. But anyway, back to school. And I'm sure probably many people listening and remembering the things of school, it wasn't always just easy stuff, that we encountered as kids. And yeah, sometimes you learned up close and personal that we weren't going to live forever. When you're a kid, it isn't that you just think you're never going to die. It's just that you don't think about it, I guess. And to have one of your peers die or pass away in a simple accident, well, that pounded people pretty hard. And so I know there's a lot of grief counselors that came in. So I remember that incident. But probably the one that takes a cake, that was just a simple accident. I don't remember that there wasn't alcohol involved. There wasn't anything of that nature. Just flat out an accident in her when she was driving. I don't recall that anybody else was involved. It just happened. But then you go from that, to kind of a troubled kid. And this kid here literally tried to burn down the school. And he almost succeeded. He was so close. And this was a school, I believe, built back in the 1930s, so it was pre-World War II era. Part of, I believe it was like one of those, what you call a New Deal project Franklin Delano Roosevelt had, where a number of these buildings were put up all over the place. And apparently the blueprints of this particular school or building, there's a number of buildings that are virtually identical to it, so I've heard. And so it was an old building when I was there, which was back in the latter 80s, early 90s. I graduated in 92. And and you can just imagine, I mean, all those, by that point it was well over 60 years old, and any timbers and whatnot that it had in it were tinder dry, as they would say, and just would easily burn. And so this kid, I forget how he attempted to start it. And, maybe some kids would say, well, right on, yay, burn the school down. Well, yeah, that isn't a healthy behavior, obviously, and this kid tried to do it, and who knows why. I mean, he had been in trouble numerous times. I remember there was a teacher who was allergic to pepper spray. Well, aren't we all? But I mean, she was particularly allergic, so bad that if there was a slightest whiff of pepper spray, it would send her home, and she needed medical care. And so this kid several times brought pepper spray to school and would spray a little bit of it around her, and just impacted her so she couldn't even teach. And what do you do with a bozo like that? The school, what can the school do? You can expel them, you can leave them out for a while so they can't come. But unless a kid has a couple parents, that help keep track of him or whatever and help instill some discipline and good character and morals, where does that leave a kid? And so he was just a troubled kid, and I don't remember his reason for trying to burn the school, except to remember that after that attempt, we never saw him again. So I have a feeling he entered the juvenile detention system of the state, and for all I know, he's still in it. Hopefully the kid got some help. But for all, and I've heard this from my own kids, oh, we gotta go to school. Well, now that my oldest son is done with school, and he realizes that he's not going to be back to it, it's kind of like, whoa, something is changing here. And so as much as kids may say that, I think they actually are pretty fond of the school they go to, their friends, the place where it is. And so when someone attempts to do something like that, burn the building down or even property damage or whatever, in spite of the fact we got a couple days off from it, people were pretty peeved. And that could have been another reason that this kid disappeared, because I think I remember several guys who wanted to find this kid and basically beat the living daylights out of him for doing this and just impacting so many people so stupidly, by trying to burn the school. So it burned a significant chunk of one wing, destroyed several classrooms. The entire school had smoke damage of some kind. It smelled like a chimney, I think, for the rest of the school year. I had some classes down in the wing that were burned, so we had to, oh, come on, Combine, you don't need to climb the hill to find the next bit of harvest here. So let me try to realign you, and I gotta go figure out what happened to... Oh, it's just saying it needs to be refueled. You know what? Maybe as we come through here, we'll try to fill him up with some sauce as he heads back out to the field. So we'll take care of that because the fuel tank is right over there on the other side of that concrete. So again, I wonder sometimes if people will actually listen to all this video and hear all this, and shoot, I'm talking about non-farming things. Again, I'm just trying to find things to talk about in here. I'd be curious, what your experiences were in school, and if there ever was a kid who tried to do this or some other kind of destructive thing that... I will say this, if he wanted to unite the whole school and bring them together to appreciate their teachers a little bit more, appreciate their school, and take a little pride in it. If that was he was attempting to accomplish, I'd say he did it. Um, and like I say, there was a number of people that wouldn't have minded to find him outside of a class setting and exact a little bit of payment. There were some people pretty upset. And I wasn't really a violent person, but I have to admit I was pretty upset and highly disappointed at the time too. It's just interesting, you know, sometimes when people act out, they think somehow that they live in a vacuum, and you know, maybe they're mad at somebody and so they're going to take something out on them, not realizing that many other people can end up being impacted by their actions. And I know that goes clear into adulthood. Aren't we all affected by politicians with their various whims and vendettas against others, and just people at large? We see it at work every day. It's just kind of the way the world is. It's kind of sad. Turn, 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 turn. No, no, you don't need to go up to that fence over there. The combine is way behind you, buddy. Oh, come on. uh, I can hear Atomic 67 laughing at me. Just do it yourself, he would say. Quit depending on force play. Let's see if I can get him to go down there, but turning him the right way. Attaboy. There you go. That's using your head for something other than a hat rack. You know, I look at the clock here and it seems like nearly a half hour has gone by. I don't know where the time goes. You know, it looks like we've done a little bit more of this field. We're slowly but surely getting it done. It just seems to take time. Yeah, I'm still thinking back on that fire. He at least chose, I think, the weekend to pull this stunt. I don't know how he got access to the property or got in, and like I say, I don't recall how he lit the fire. Could be those details weren't even handed out so that some other kid couldn't try to copycat it somewhere else. That I just don't remember. It just was quite devastating what was done. Like I say, we got a few days off, but sooner than you might have imagined, they opened it back up, and we just had our classes relocated. There was classes consolidated. We had to share some areas. I mean, I remember having one class up in the balcony of the auditorium. We'd never have a class up there, but for a while we met up there, two classes, you know, because they had to have a place to put us. So admire the creativity of the teachers at least when they did this. But fortunately, no person was injured or hurt. It was over the weekend when nobody was there, so at least give them props for choosing to do it then versus during school hours. Well, as I look at the time here, like I say, another half hour has gone by, and trying to follow the advice of Atomic 67 to keep these videos at a reasonable size. As soon as my combine gets going here, I think I'm going to call it for an episode. So thank you for joining me and watching and listening to all my silly talk as we farm together a little bit on Gelvin Valley. Have a good day all. Take care until next time. Bye-bye.